So yesterday evening after the Ferrari, I had to make a beeline back to the hotel, which fortunately was near the station. It's surprisingly easy to find your way across Venice if you're heading for somewhere like the station or St Mark's Square, because it's all signposted. So this morning I'm doing that route in reverse back to the Ferrari. Unfortunately, they wouldn't let me in again because on the chorus card you can only visit each place once. So, continuing with Walk 1, the Church of San Rocco is just round the corner, and next to that is the Scuola di San Rocco. In neither of these were we allowed to use a camera, which is a bit frustrating, considering the whole purpose of the expedition is to photograph Venice. These were photographed from a billboard outside the Scuola. So, continuing onwards with Walk 1, we discover that they've decided to pave the streets of Venice with wooden floorboards. And here is San Pantalon, with a notice indicating that it might be open at 4 o'clock this afternoon. And here is the renewal of Venice's water supply, electric and gas supply and sewage, which of course explains all the floorboards in the nearby streets. And looking round from the same vantage point on the same bridge, and that's the top of the bell tower of the Ferrari. And the tiny Campiello just round the corner has this line of St Mark and this Byzantine roundel from the 12th century, portraying the emperor. So that's it for Walk 1. We now need to get back to the Rialto Bridge for the start of Walk 2. Unfortunately, the Rialto is one of those destinations that's well signposted. You'll remember San Giacomo from yesterday. There seem to be more people around than yesterday, but we are getting into the tourist end of the markets. I mean, look at all these lovely things you could buy if you had any money. And this time we are going to go over the bridge. It always reminds me a bit of the old London Bridge with the shops on either side. And whilst we're up here, let's have a look down towards San Marco way. And the other way, looking up towards the station, up towards the north. Perhaps you remember that yesterday we mentioned the Venetian playwright Carlo Goldoni, the Alan Ayckbourn of his time. Well, we missed his house, but in the square where we start this from, there's his statue. We're in Campo San Bartolomeo. Now here's a little dog, but remember in particular this big black floppy one. We may see him again later. The first square north of Campo San Bartolomeo is nearly filled with the fine Renaissance church of San Giovanni Crisostomo, the last work of Mauro Carducci, which finished in 1504. Difficult to see, but I'm told that on the high altar we have Sebastiano del Piombo's Seven Saints, 1508 to 11. And this marble altar is certainly by Tullio Lombardo, 1502, showing the coronation of the Virgin. And could this be Giovanni Bellini's Saints Christopher, Jerome and Louis of Toulouse, 1513, painted when he was 82 and his last work? Just down Calle della Stua is another excuse to get back to the canal, see those new market buildings again, looking upwards towards the station. Now, I can't quite think what that is, but is it a crane or something like that? Oh, there's another one anyway, another crane. So we're on Ponte Marco Polo. That is, I am told, where he used to live. And this is the Corte Prima del Milione. And if I was Francesco and saying it in an Italian accent, it might sound interesting. This little area of courtyards and passages named Del Milione, all near Marco Polo's house and just behind the church we just looked at, are called Del Milione because the people of Venice didn't believe all the tales that Marco Polo told. They thought it was a million lies.
Marco Polo became known as Marco Milione, or simply Il Milione, Mr. Millions, because the people of Venice didn't believe a word he said. To make fun of him, they even called this courtyard Il Milione.
Thank you, Francesco. We've done all that. We're in Campiello Santa Maria Nova, looking at the Gothic Palazzo Bembo Boldu, where nobody's really quite sure what all these figures are and what they represent. Turn left under the duck on Calle dei Miracoli. Venice seems to be suffering from a plague of graffiti, but here the juxtaposition of that and the sublime is rather telling, I think. This is the art of the 15th century, Santa Maria dei Miracoli. I have heard that the configuration of the high altar and steps in Berkhamsted School is inspired by this church. The church was designed by Pietro Lombardo and his sons Tullio and Antonio. The church is covered inside and out with a pearly sheath of rich marble like St. Mark's. One tradition has it that it got all the leftovers. The ceiling is decorated with 50 fine Renaissance portraits of the prophets and other Old Testament figures by Pier Maria Pennacchi. We go now down this south end of the church to the east end, and quite conveniently for lunchtime it looks as though we may have a lunch today in this rather nice setting. How pleasant to sit outside at lunchtime in November and have this as a view while you eat your lasagna.